Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Ruggiero and I am a 3D artist. A lot of my work concentrates on the internet and social culture surrounding the internet and technology. I do 3D stills animations, and I've also done art exhibitions with AR and VR. And my main tool is Cinema 4D and has been for a while now. I got into cinema because I studied graphic design in school, and then it was actually suggested to me by my boss at Viacom, where I worked for 2 years in New York City, to learn cinema. So I did, and I actually had a ton of fun learning it. My first few tries were unsuccessful, but then eventually I got the hang of it, and now I use it all the time. And I needed something to concentrate on, and I've always wanted to do art. I've always considered myself an artist ever since I was young. So I, started making art in cinema, and it just really took off for me, and I absolutely love it. So today I'm going to show you guys some of the ways that I use cinema, and I'm going to start with showing you my reel. Okay, so that was my reel, and then I'm just gonna show you guys my Instagram really quick, because I feel like this is like the easiest way to just show you a bunch of my stills. Over the past couple years, some of the biggest clients I've worked with and that you saw on my reel are music videos for Lady Gaga, Calvin Harris, The Weeknd, Rico Nasty. I also worked with Adult Swim, which I'm going to be talking about today, New York Times, Giphy, Snapchat. Just some really cool clients. Those are some of my favorite clients. And this is my Instagram as well, so you can see some of my still work, which isn't really covered in my reel as much. And then lastly, I'm just going to quickly show you guys talk about what I'm going to go over today. So first, I'm going to talk about character building and using DAZ to make your characters and then bring them into cinema. I'm not going to talk about how to make the characters in DAZ. I'm just going to talk about how to get them from DAZ to cinema and how you can use them in cinema. I'm also going to show you guys how to keyframe the characters, how to animate them quickly, how to do facial expressions and things like that, as well as how to build a basic scene. Then I'm going to go into a couple animations I made for Adult Swim. and I'm going to talk about how I sequenced these animations, how I used animatics to really guide my process, and how I use Cinema 4D tools to make the scenes more lively. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about very briefly how you can also make your scenes a little bit more complex as you get more advanced by using motion capture. Okay, cool, so let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you is how to get your character from DAZ to Cinema, and how to keyframe some animations, how to keyframe a pose and turn that into an animation, as well as how to use facial blend shapes and animate facial expressions. So I'm going to just do a really quick rundown of how to do these things. So first, you're going to make your character in DAZ, and I'm not going to go into how to do that in DAZ, but you know, basically just use their marketplace. You can use tools like ZBrush to sculpt the character. You know, there's a lot of different ways to build your character, but the really nice thing about DAZ is your character comes pre-rigged, so that actually takes a lot of work out of the process of getting a character animation ready, which is really nice, and which is why I really prefer to use DAZ over just building my characters from scratch, because I work a lot with human figures, and so there really isn't a huge reason to build something from scratch because of that. So the first thing you want to do is get your character ready, you know, customize your character the way you want, and then once you do that, DAZ recently added a bridge called DAZ to Cinema 4D Bridge. So you can install that through the DAZ manager that comes with DAZ, and DAZ is a completely free program. So this is all just super awesome. So you use the bridge, you just click on it, and then it converts your model to be ready to insert it into Cinema 4D. So I'm not going to make us sit here and wait for that. I already imported the model, but basically when you go into Cinema, you're going to also have an extension in Cinema that pulls from DAZ called DAZ to Cinema 4D. You can convert your materials to whatever you use, whatever rendering engine, and then hit auto import, and it will import for you. So I have my character here. I'm not going to get the materials ready for this right now because I'm just doing a quick animation tutorial. Though one thing I really like to do is search for rig and turn off the face rig, otherwise you will be unable to see much of anything properly, which can get very annoying. Then just so we can kind of see a little bit more clearly, I'm just going to turn my renderer on. Turn on path tracing. And we're going to turn our ray epsilon value down. Okay. And a really quick thing, I'm not going to go into much here, but if you use Octane or whatever you use, you can replace the eye moisture, because it comes, like, if you do, I didn't import it as an Octane material. I'm not sure if that's any better, but you can use a clear cornea material, which is really useful, or you can just make your own specular material, which actually I'm going to do right now, just so you can see the eyes a little bit better. And again, I'm not going to go full on into texturing this because I don't really think it's necessary right now. And that's a whole different discussion, but I do want to show you guys how to animate. So I got the eyes, you know, just turned on the specular so we can see a little bit better what the eyes are doing. Cool. So, you know, you can definitely spruce up your materials here, but for our purposes, what we're looking at today is we're looking at animation. So as you can see, the character comes in with the full rig, and the full rig is right here as well. Everything starts from the hips, so this is kind of the anchor point here, and then it goes into the rest of the body. That's how Daz characters are set up. So let's say I want my character to appear a little bit more relaxed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and find the arms, and you can hit Control and click, and it'll, you know, bring out the entire menu so you can look more easily. You can also search arm in the search area. I like to do it this way. So we got the left shoulder bend here. And as you can see, they actually added extra bones. You're gonna not want to use the twist bones for bending. You can use it for twisting. I prefer to just use the bend for everything. And I'm gonna turn on my auto key right now because I don't want to have to key every time I move something, but just keep in mind auto key is on, because you don't want to start keying stuff like your cameras or something on accident, because that, you know, can get really annoying. So I have my auto key on. I'm having them, this character, I just want them to look a little bit more relaxed, so I'm just gonna, you know, oops. And you want to keep in mind too, you know, the way the body actually moves. So you don't really want to have the arms, like I can move the arm like this, like clearly the arm doesn't move that way. So, you know, there's also another option to do your poses in Daz, and Daz actually has a restraints on the bones, which can be really nice if you have a hard time understanding how the bone should move. Though I don't think that Daz will bring over animations. I haven't really used that. I usually do my animations outside of Daz. So, alright, you know, the characters are already looking a little more relaxed, which is great. Let's see. Going to gonna do this and move this arm a little bit more. And I'm just doing a really rough thing here right now because we don't have too much time to go over this, but I do want to show you how to do this. So, okay, cool. Like, they're looking pretty good. Maybe I want the legs to come a little bit closer together. So let's look for the legs. We're gonna close these face rigs because we don't really need that. The legs. I'm gonna close the feet too. Very rare that I have ever keyframed feet. Or not feet, but toes. I have keyframed toes, but like individual toes. Like, I don't think you really see that very much. Alright, so the character's looking pretty relaxed now, and, you know, we have them chilling. So say I want the character to go from one pose to another pose. Alright, say I want it to take 30 frames, so about a second, to go from like point A to point B. Wonderful. So I'm going to take, let's put this out like 45 frames right now is the max. So I'm going to take the arm. I'm going to take the arm and maybe have the character wave. So let's go look for the arm again. We'll do the right arm. And we're gonna have the character, you know, just come, oops, wrong one. Watch out for those twists. It is pretty funny that they send it over with like extra bones. What kind of wave do we want? Are they just chilling? They're gonna just be chilling. Hello. Hello. I'm very excited, like, hey. Oh, another thing that I should mention is you see how, like, it's kind of like it looks a little weird here. So one thing that I discovered that is really good is if you go to the skin and change the object properties of the skin to circle instead of linear on everything, it actually really helps a lot. Oh, look at that. I'm auto keyframing it. This is the thing that you don't want to do. Turn off auto keyframe before you start doing stuff like this. And then do spherical. We don't need that keyframed all over. Yeah, just do it on like literally everything. So once we have everything on circle, you can see it kind of makes this look less weird. And there's a blended option as well. You know, you can play with these different options if you want it to look a certain way, but you know, I do think that this looks a lot better. So I'm going to turn my auto keyframes back on. Just remember, I'm on frame 30. We don't want to be going all around the frames and keyframing because then it's going to start looking crazy too. So as you can see, now my character moves the arm up and down. Really simple animation. This is just like hey, what you doing? Hello, you know. Oh my god. I'm much better at animating than this, but for the purposes of this presentation, we want to keep it short. So that's just like a really quick you know, keyframe there, and then you know, you might want to do an in-between frame, so maybe like, you know, it's not too natural for me to just, or for a character to just move their arm straight up. Like, who does that? No one, you know. And we want the arm to kind of like bend and then go up, which would make it more natural, so we want to do some in-between frames here. So what we can do is, okay, like I want frame 15. Cool. That's right between 30 and 1. And you know, it also helps to check afterwards to see the timing. I usually do rough renders and make sure like my timing is appropriate. But so okay, I want my arm to kind of like move out a little bit, so we're gonna go back to the right arm, and we're just gonna have, you know, okay, what I do is I move my arm up and over, so that's kind of how I want my arm to look here. And I want it to bend a little bit, so it's not just looking like it's going straight up in the air unnaturally. So what happens here is, okay, now they move their arm up and they're gonna say hi to their friend. Check that out. And so, another thing to note too is that if I didn't keyframe a certain bone, which is what's happening right now, it's going to just keep the last keyframe. So I didn't have that keyframe, so it's still completely bent. So, you know, oh, look at me, I'm actually doing it on the wrong frame. Don't do that. So I want it, you know, I want to go back in and do the forearm bend so that it looks a little bit more natural. Now they're ready to say hi to their friend. Hello. There we go. Okay, cool. So like that's just a really simple way, and we can kind of like preview it here. You know, we might want to speed it up, we might want to slow it down. The best thing to do is to do a quick render too, to see what the true timing is. Okay, the second thing I want to go over is keyframing the face. So what's really cool about DAZ is it comes over with not all of them, but a lot of the blend shapes that are on the face. So what we can do is we can go in and say, you know, they're saying hi to their friend. So we want them to have a smile, you know, go from just chilling to being happy. So, okay, so like say they start off as like, you know, just hanging out. And okay, so I see happy, right? So I want to keyframe happy because on 0 as 0, because I know that on frame 30 I'm gonna want them to have this morph on. So now they're smiling. We got auto key on, it's doing it for us. So that's going from, you know, one frame to the next. And look, it's already animated. There we go. See, this is so simple. This is why I really love using these tools. It's really great. And then, you know, we can go in and there's like, I usually don't use like the happy, sad, glare, like whatever tools. I'll usually kind of do some of these myself with just like the brow raising and you know, moving the eyes and things like that. You know, you can really get into it where moving their eyes side to side, like looking around, like go from like 0 to, you know, then looking over to the left or whatever, wherever their friend's at, you know? So that's a really quick way to do that. And just keep in mind, like, all of these come in with blend shapes. Unfortunately, it does put blend shapes on like the clothes for some reason, even though they don't do anything. So what I usually do to save memory is I'll just delete them. You really don't need them in here. And this is also part of that, so you can delete all of the poses, but do not do that on your body or on your eyelashes, because for the eyelashes you also need to keep anything that's going on with the eyes, especially, but like, you know, best practice is to just copy everything that you did on the body, because the eyelashes have their own morphs. It's just the way it's set up. So I will go back in and I'll just redo, you know, my happy morphs. Oh, actually, look at this. This one actually is, oh no, it's not. Okay, so I'll redo my happy morphs. Here we go. Sorry, I got confused for a second. So I'll put that at 59 so that, you know, the eyelashes will also move with the body, and then at 0, and then the eye movement as well, which we did as side side, and it went to 29, and we're gonna put side side, where is it, at 29 at frame 30, and then at 0. Okay, that's already keyed. Wonderful. So you want to do that, but for the other things you really don't need that information. You can delete it. And the cool thing about that too is it enables sculpting. If you get rid of the poses, it enables sculpting. So you can, if something's looking weird with the outfit, you can go in and you can sculpt it as long as you don't have the shapes on, and it will actually retain that sculpt. So that, I actually really love that as well. It's something really easy. It's a really, really cool tool, and it helps a lot, you know, getting stuck with some clothes that aren't really form-fitting properly, and you can fix that. So we got our little animation here. Just saying hello. Very slowly. But usually that speeds up in the render, so cool. And then next I'm going to show you guys how I set up this character inside of a scene very quickly, a very simple scene, because I want to talk about both posing characters, animating characters, and okay, so next I want to show you how to set up your character in a scene. So one of the most important things that I do that really, really helps me is I set up 2 panels in my file. So I'm gonna hide some of these cameras so we can see what the heck is going on in here. But basically, I have my camera that is set that I want to work with for the angle, right? But I don't want to move that camera, but say I still want to move some of the items in the scene. Okay, well, how do I do that? I create 2 panels. So this is one of the coolest options in cinema, I think, is you just go to panel, and then you go to arrangement, and then you do 2 views side by side, which is what I have set up now. You click that, and then you're just gonna want to go to camera, and then you go to perspective, because a lot of times it'll set you up like left, right, front, back, just like lock you into this weird camera, and you don't want that. You want to be able to use perspective camera so that you can go in and you can move around and move things around, and then you can go to display and, you know, turn on whatever display you feel most comfortable working in. I think this is probably the best one. And then if you want to make it a little bit lighter in here, because we're really not looking at that, you just can turn it on lines, hidden lines, whatever, because we don't really care. If your scene's really heavy, you can put it on low detail for the time being. I don't really like to do that because I like to keep the detail high and I like to see what's going on. So, yeah, I will do it sometimes if my scene's really heavy, which I'll get to in a little bit. So anyway, as you can see, basically the way I did this is I posed the character first, and then I was like, okay, like what kind of scene do I want this character in? Like, is this gonna be kind of like a, I wanted to do kind of like a Sonic throwback. So this isn't my final scene, but it's close to it. And so, I was like, okay, I think at this point I hadn't put like the Sega on the chest yet. I think there were a couple details that were missing here. I think I changed the color of this, stuff like that. But generally I was like, okay, like how can I make this scene interesting and dynamic, while still having like a pretty basic setup? So what I did is, I threw in a sun, I threw in the rings, which I thought were a really nice throwback. I did two versions of this. One I did with a cloner. It's a little more chaotic, kind of like almost like a little comic. I didn't show that one, but you can check it out on my Instagram. So, really simple way to do this. I just put like literally just copy and pasted these and then move them over because it's only 3 here. And then I set up grass with Forester and Octane scatter, but you can use a cloner for that very easily as well. Pulled in some objects from C4D Bridge, which is the rock and the tree. I think I grabbed these shoes from Turbo Squid, and then I just made the background. I wanted to go for that like whole Sonic kind of vibe with the blue and the red and the green and the yellow. Again, I think I made the rock a little bit more yellow in post. But yeah, as you can see, this is a really easy setup. And then, like I said, what's really cool about this is say like, oh my god, this ring is just not in the right spot. Let me move it. I can go in and I can do that, and it doesn't affect like my actual render, which is this. So I can move these rings around, I can move this tree around, I can even move the character around, and get the character in the right place. They don't, and then I can still go to my first panel and be like, all right, well that looks cool, but I think I need a little bit of a different angle. Let me just move this a little bit, and I can move that, then it'll give me that different angle that I might want. And then I can still go back in and move around the scene, which is really, really, really cool. So I use this all the time, and I think it's really important. But so that's kind of like how you can kind of set up your character, and you can also do some pretty simple scene building, simple yet effective, using the tools in cinema. And I'm gonna talk about that a little bit more in the next section. Okay, so I just went over this simple character scene setup, posing, and some simple animations, how you can do it yourself. Now I'm going to go into some more complex examples with 2 animations that I made for Adult Swim a couple years ago. The first animation is this. Okay, and then the second animation
I like it.
Cool. So they're both both just some funny, cheeky animations that I made. The first one's called Candy Set a Timer, and the second one is called Halo Effect. The first one's just about making some food with some weird objects, some weird food items, and them exploding into the Adult Swim logo, and the second one is about receiving a bunch of likes and adoration and just like soaking it in and like basically almost gloating because of it. So they're both just like really funny animations. So first I'm going to start off with my animatic, which is how I set up my more complex animations, especially when I'm doing storytelling. And it's really important for me to stick pretty closely to how I set up my animatic. So you can see here that, you know, it's very similar to the first animation that I just showed. It goes through each scene, it goes through the timing of each scene. It has the frames set up very similar to how I have the frames set up. So working like this is really important. Especially for me, it's how I keep myself organized. So that's the animatic. So how complex I get with each scene depends. So I'm going to talk about scene complexity. I'm going to talk about my color palettes, and I'm going to talk about how to use Cinema 4D tools to get your animations looking a little bit more complex than you might otherwise. Rather than having a very still scene, you can have something a little bit more dynamic. And I'm going to go through some really, really easy ways to do that. First I'm going to talk about how this scene is set up. Thankfully this file is a little bit cleaner than my last one. So let me go in. I'm actually going to go in. I don't have my two panels set up for this because I just kind of want to go in and show you guys how I have this whole room set up. So I basically, you know, so I generally have, you know, most of my scene set up for different angles and stuff like that, especially if I'm working within the same scene. But I do like to break up my files into like, you know, like take 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on what part of the animation it's in. So all of my stuff is separated. I don't really work with like layers or anything like that. I keep it simple. This keeps me a little bit more organized. It's easier to use the render queue when I need to. It's just a little bit faster for me personally, although I know there are people who really like to do it in different ways. So for the first scene, I actually put a little vibrate tag on the camera. This is a really nice thing that you can do to keep your shots a little bit more flavorful. And then, you know, I put a post-it note in, and it's literally just a plane and a displacer. I reused models. You know, these are some things I had made for different projects. I used this in an exhibition. I used this for a still that I made, but I was like, you know what? These objects are going to look really good in this as well. Let me like maybe revisit them. Let me reuse them. And I really like to do that with my artwork. In addition to that, for this, for the vibe for this overall, I really wanted to combine my knowledge of Japanese, which I was studying at the time, with, you know, these different products that are being focused on in this animation, which I found really exciting. And I really wanted to do this like kawaii pastel environment color palette, and so I really focused on that and tried to hone in on that. and I wanted to get, a spectrum of colors in here that you can really see. You got your purples, your greens, your blues, your reds, your oranges, and that was really important for me, and that was actually pretty challenging to get all of the colors in there, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. But so just these different things, these little different things that you can really think to do, like reusing objects, coming up with a nice color palette, simple things like a post-it note add a lot of flavor to the scene. It adds a lot of personality, and that's something that I really like to include in my work. So I'm going to go on to the next scene. I'm going to talk a little bit about from this animation. I'm going to talk a little bit how I, did this side of the counter for this next sequence. So this one was really particularly, I think it came out really cool, and it's something that I did really simply with some dynamics and the coffee beans. So in this scene, you can see, the beans. What happens is they literally they fall, let me turn that off, they fall on the counter. And it looks really nice, and it adds a lot of personality to this scene, and so what I did, this is just so easy. Here we go, I'll dump this into a new file really quick to show you. So what I did is I took a cloner, I put the beans under the cloner, I threw a random effector on the cloner, I put some dynamics on the beans, I put dynamics on the counter, so, we have, say this is the counter, I didn't copy over the counter. Okay, cool, the beans are gonna fall from the air onto the counter. So we just take the collider body, I think I messed with the friction a bit, the bounce a bit, and then, we just go in and we let it run. And then you have the beans falling on the counter. It's so simple, to set this up, but it adds so much flavor to this one cut here, and it's really nice. So I had a lot of fun with even just that one little idea again, and focusing on the colors, focusing on the personality of the animation. So that's what I did for this particular cut. And you can see again, I'm really focusing on all these different colors. I have, the turquoise here, I have the pink here, I have the red here, orange, purple, yellow. And this was really fun to set up, yeah, I think it came out awesome. So, and then I'm going to go on to this last cut here. And this is a wider shot and this one actually has the character in it. So, I have a few shots of the environment, setting up the scene, setting up the vibe, really important, and then the character comes in. And you actually don't see the face of the character the whole time, but you can really feel the personality in this. And I thought that was really cool too. And that was something I really wanted to play with in this. So for this one, there's a couple things that I did here. I have the string lights with the cloner in here. And you can see I have level of detail on 0 because the string is doing this. Which it does not do when you turn the detail back up. I have this timer in here, and I made this timer glitching out, and I did that, a little sequence for that, a Photoshop sequence for that. I rendered it out to work with Octane, just to add, a little bit more personality of this clock that's counting down this timer. That was, really important for this scene. And then as you can see, I have as she's stirring, which is, the main animation here, the main focus that I really was important for this, you know, you have all these accessory animations that are going on as well. You have the timer and you have the toast popping up. And this just gives a lot of life to the scene. And this toast, you know, is really simple to animate. I animated both the toast and the lever. This is just a keyframe animation. You know, you have the toast popping up and easing back up and down. And literally, I just keyframe that by hand. It's so easy and it adds so much personality. That's one of my favorite parts of this whole animation, just seeing that toast. I love the toast. And yeah, it's just simple positioning animations. So, and then you can see again, I really am going for the color balance here, and I think I, you know, revisited each of these a couple times because I really wanted to get the color palette down, not only in each take, but I wanted to get the color palette down in the wider shots as well. So I wanted it to work. I wanted the color palette to work when it was just on its own, you know, when you see those pieces of the counter. And then I wanted the color palette to work when you have the wider shot with the character and the outfit. And so I think I'm so happy with this. I think that this came out, it became, you know, really successful. So, yeah, so that's basically what I did for Candy Set a Timer, and I'll show you guys that one more time, and then I'm going to go on to Halo Effect. Okay, so we just watched this, Candy Set a Timer, and I went over the color palettes and some different things you can do to make your scene richer, different small Cinema 4D tools that you can use to make your scene feel richer along with your character animation, and how to set up your scenes and how to use your animatics to set up your scenes. Now we're going to go over this halo effect. So I'm going to show you one more time, and we're going to talk about the different things I used in this scene to kind of enrich it, along with how I used that animatic to achieve that as well. So here we go. Here's the animatic. You can see she opens her eyes, she raises her arms, you have the shot of the kids. She raises her hands, the kids are sending likes to her, and she's adoring them. And as that happens, the pillar grows and she is raised up, and then she looks down and she sees Adult Swim. So again, the scenes that I set up are really close to how my animatic is set up. And again, that's really important for me to stick to. It really helps me solidify my ideas. So when I'm in that sketching phase, I really want to try to get my ideas very close as possible to my animatic. There's always some differences. I had 4 little kid characters. I wound up going with 3, different things like that. So for this, I really wanted to have a waterfall, but I really didn't want to go through the process of making, doing a simulation with like X particles or something like that. I felt it was just a bit too complex for my scene, so I was looking for cheaper ways to achieve how to make a waterfall in this scene. So I knew that I wanted a waterfall. I knew I wanted this like cave with like crystals and this kind of like cooler color palette. I wanted to feel a little creepy, but like also like a little mysterious, a little how do you say it, like almost like ethereal or something as well. So I went for this kind of like pinks and blues and purples, and this like kind of like chrome vibe here. So for this, I also quickly just want to show you how I kind of set this up. I have, the cave here, and then I have the little kids here, because I knew I would be doing shots, close up on little kids. I don't have them textured properly in this scene, because it wasn't necessary, but I have the little kids here because I knew I was going to have some shots with my character and the kids down at the bottom, and some shots of just the character and some shots of just the kids. So I put it at an angle where I could really do all of that and still have the pillar go up high, because that's another shot I needed to get. So I had to keep all of that in mind when I was setting this up. So, but again, the kids look like a big mess right now because this is an older project and I didn't retexture them for this one, or like relink the textures, because my main focus was on the main character anyway. So for the waterfall, that's what I want to go over. You know, this is another really cool, quick thing that I did, and I just use cinema tools to just come up with like quick ideas of how I can like achieve, you know, some cool looking stuff, and it really adds like so much. It really makes it really dynamic. So basically all I did with this is I used the Metaballs, which if you haven't used Metaball before, it's super cool and super fun to play with. It's probably like one of my favorite and first things that I used in cinema. I just think it's so like fun and cool. Basically what it does is it creates these kind of like globby forms, you know, and you can make it a little bit more refined and look a little bit more like water or something like that. So I really love this tool in cinema, and I was like, oh, I feel like I can use this to make a waterfall. So that's exactly what I did. Basically all I did was I took the Metaballs, linked them to an emitter, have them coming out the emitter, and put some gravity on it, and it made a really nice looking waterfall. I had to cache it, of course. That's why this is actually, the playback is pretty good. But it, you know, it does have to process this still, but it's so much cheaper than doing like a full-on particle animation, which I really wanted to avoid. And I really, really love the look that it gave. It gave us like kind of like playful, silly look. I really didn't want this animation to be so serious. I wanted it to be funny, like both a little critical, but like just kind of humorous. You know, it was for Adult Swim. I really like making humorous animations, so that's something that I really wanted to aim for with this one. So, and then I'm going to go on to one more scene. And this one was actually a bit complex to do because I had 3 characters in this scene. And I had to animate all of them. I needed the timings to be proper, so I really needed to pay attention to, you know, what frames I was having, what happened on. And I'm just going to pause that. And you can see that, you know, their fingers don't hit at exactly the same time. I didn't want them to because I thought that would look unnatural. So I knew this scene needed to be about 3 seconds long because I kind of had that time for my animatic. Again, another reason why the animatic really helps. And then I had to set up their emitters to be a bit offset as well. So I have, you know, the emitters set up here. I have the particles kind of dying off at a certain point, and I have the colors kind of a bit sporadic so it looks more natural. I have the materials changing so that when they press the heart it lights up. You know, all little things like this were, you know, fairly simple to do, but again, make the scene more effective. And another really cool thing that you can't necessarily see here is the water plane on the bottom animates. So in the last scene in the animation, you can really see that. And I think it just looks so beautiful and effective as like the floor. And that was really cool to me as well. So, you know, having these 3 characters all animating at slightly different times, keeping my overall timing in mind of the 90 seconds, you know, was really important. And, you know, just framing this properly with all the 3 characters. So yeah, so those are just some little tricks I did for that animation in particular, and I'm just going to play it one more time. And you can see exactly what I'm talking about with the hearts lighting up, the emitters, and then you can see the waterfall as well as the beautiful plane and displacer on the floor. Again, another easy trick. It makes it look really nice. I did a specular glossy plane on top, and then I have another one on the bottom that's white colored. So I think it came out really beautiful, and I'm very happy with it. So the last thing I'm going to go over is some really simple mocap that I did in collaboration with my friend Andy Rolfes, and this is the video for that. So we did just a simple mocap recording for this one in an Maxon suit. And basically we did the mocap cleanup in Maya, and then we brought the FBX into Cinema and did the whole scene setup. So I'm just going to show you guys quickly what that looks like in Cinema and kind of like how complex and you can get with these types of things. And this is just a simple mocap, but as I showed in my reel earlier, I've used mocap for music videos as well. I did in particular for the Calvin Harris music video that I did, and that was a really fun project to work on, and that was a lot more complex. We got a dancer, you know, and we recorded that, and that was just really fun. So yeah, and I also recently got my own mocap suit, so I'm getting pretty stoked about making more projects with that. So basically, when you do motion capture, you would use a mocap suit. For this, I worked with the Maxon suit, and I worked with my friend Andy Rolfes, and we used his suit. And basically what it does is it keyframes every frame and records what your body is doing. I usually clean up the mocap in Maya, so basically what the difference is instead of doing animation by hand and then keying in between frames, the motion capture keys every single frame for you, and then you kind of have to clean it up. I'm not going to go over that process, but I just wanted to show you guys what it looks like. So I have my figure inside of Cinema, and as you can see, every frame is keyed here. And then looking at the blend shapes, the pose morphs, you can see that these are also keyed because we did use facial motion capture as well, and you can see how it changes as the animation sequence goes on. So this was really fun. This was really cool. The whole concept behind this is, the title is www.izzard, so wizard, and it's about basically the mysterious force behind the internet. That's what this figure represents, and how most people don't really know how the internet works. So this figure is basically the controller of the internet, and she's kind of just like casually playing with internet browsers over the years. So that's what this one was about. Thank you guys so much. I really hope that you enjoyed my presentation. And thanks for listening, and I hope it was helpful. I'm going to show you where you can follow me if you want to keep yourself updated with the work that I'm doing. So you can follow me on Instagram at Nicole Ruggiero, that's Ruggiero. I'm also on Twitter, _Nicole Ruggiero. Unfortunately, I didn't grab that name fast enough, but what can you do? And I also do NFTs, so if you guys want to check that out, I'm on Foundation. something that I've been really getting into lately. It's really cool. Again, Nicole Ruggiero. And then I'm also on Zora.